Okay, so thank you, everyone. I hope that you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Want to double check? Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Ting-An Lin. I'm currently a postdoctoral fellow at Stanford University. So today I will be talking about rethinking democratizing AI. And specifically, the question I want to raise is whether democratizing AI is a suitable response to the issue of algorithmic injustice. Over the past decade, with the prevalent usage of AI, the concern of algorithmic injustice has been raised. And this idea can be understood as when the use, development, and the deployment of AI function to either produce, reproduce, or exacerbate some of the unjustified power imbalances or power hierarchies. And in response, the idea of making AI more democratic or to democratize AI has sometimes been framed or been regarded as a promising route to address the issue of algorithmic injustice. And in fact, this idea is not only proposed by some academic philosophers, but rather it is also widely endorsed in the tech world. Many big tech companies from Google, Meta to Microsoft all talks about democratizing AI. They popularize this slogan and sometimes describe that democratizing AI is their commitment. But the questions here is, what does democratizing AI mean? What do they mean when they say this? And furthermore, whether democratizing AI, both in terms of the notions and the practices that has been proposed, whether it is a suitable response to the issue of algorithmic injustice. And this will be the questions that we spend today's time together. So the goal of this presentation, first of all, I will provide you with an understanding of algorithmic injustice from the socio-technical perspective, which will help us to ground the following analysis. And the second part, we will dive into three different notions of democratizing AI. And then I will try to examine each of those respectively regarding how well they might help us to respond to algorithmic injustice. So first, my understanding of algorithmic injustice builds on Iris Marion Young's theory of social structure and structural injustice. Young is a feminist philosopher and a political theorist, and her work on social structure and structural injustice has been really influential in the contemporary discussions. According to Young, social structure is a kind of background condition that individuals situate in. So it is formed through complicated interactions among many different components. So like this picture on the right-hand side try to depict. Most notably, there are some of the elements such as the norms, like the social norms and legal norms that tell us what's permissible, what's forbidden. The schemas, namely how some of the values get to ascribed to many features or some of the actions make some things more desirable and something that we should try to avoid of. Furthermore, there's elements of distributions of resources, all kinds of mental resources, practical, money or all kinds of other material resources. Through the interactions of all these elements, social structure exposes some huge influence on individuals' options and choices. And while all kinds of social structure has this kind of enabling or restricting function, we can say that a social structure is unjust, or we can say that a structural injustice exists when the influence of social structure exposes large groups of people systemically to some underserved burdens, such as domination, oppression, exploitation, etc. And at the same time, conferring some of the unearned benefits, like power or resources, to other groups of people. In Young theorizing, she doesn't say much about the role of technology. However, I think in our contemporary world, it is more appropriate to characterize that our background condition as a kind of socio-technical structure, which is hugely shaped by AI. By this, I mean that the design, development, and deployment of AI has been closely interacting with many elements of social structure and continue to shape the background condition that exerts profound impacts on the relations and the social positions among different people. And so with that, we can understand the idea of algorithmic injustice as a type of structural injustice. So we can understand, I think I can hear the echo. Yeah, there's some echoing. Sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, now it's good. Okay, let's see. So I was at a point saying that from this perspective, we can understand algorithmic injustice as a type of structural injustice, namely that when this resulting social technical structure exposed large groups of people to some undisturbed burdens and then conferred power to other people. So this can be manifest in various different ways. For example, when the AI system perpetuate or show to support some kind of existing oppressive systems, such as racism, sexism, classism, or it can happen when the development of AI confer lots of the decision-making power or economic power to a few dominant tech companies. So all this attract people's attention to the issue of algorithmic injustice. And in the beginning, lots of people try to address this issue through a more technological approach, which like this left-hand side picture try to show it is like the engineer try to fix the problem of algorithm because they think that the problem is mostly like resides in the algorithm itself. However, once we understand the issue of algorithmic injustice as a form of structural injustice, it is clearly to see that the technological approach is limited and insufficient. But rather, we should better understand the problem of algorithmic injustice as a social political issue. And in order to shape that, we need to appeal to more comprehensive approaches that to help us to shape this social technical structure, maybe through dealing with different elements of the social structure, or through the process of both from design, development, and the deployment of the AI system. The goal of this shaping is in order to pursue a more just social structure where this kind of unjustified power imbalances between different groups of people with different social positions be more like reduced or further mitigated. So I think it's against this backdrop, the idea of democratizing AI gained more tractions. And as I pointed out earlier, this slogan has been really become really popular in the tech world. But now let's dive in and to see what do they mean by this and how well this can help us to address the issue of algorithmic injustice. Okay. So here I lay out three different notions of democratizing AI. They are democratizing AI use, development, and governance. So these three, I think they are probably not an exhaustive list of what people has been used democratizing AI for. However, I think those are the most notable notions and at least can help us to, as a starting point to conduct some of the important analysis. So in the following, I will briefly explain the definition of these three notions. I will also mention some of the dominant practices or measures that has been associated with the notions. And then I will talk about their prospects and the limitations in addressing the issue of algorithmic injustice. The first notion is democratizing AI use. And here, the idea is to make AI accessible or more accessible to more users. Here's a quote from Microsoft. It says that at Microsoft, we have an approach that seeks to democratize artificial intelligence, to take it from the ivory tower and make it accessible for all. So the idea here is basically understand AI as a tool, and especially as a kind of powerful tool. So the idea is that, well, if AI is such a powerful tool, then we should not just give this tool to a handful, small groups of people, but rather hopefully make it more widely available for more people to make use of it. So some of the really popular approaches in this regard is to reduce the cost of using AI tools or running AI tools. Or some of the company might try to provide some of the support or assistive tools that help people to better incorporate AI into their everyday work practices. The prospects of democratizing AI use is that first, well, it can help to reduce some of the digital divides, right? It is a well-documented phenomenon that there's digital divides among people in different parts of the world, global north and south, in terms of that's being shaped by how accessible that people have in terms of to access some of the information technology, say from computer to internet, and now AI can be another ways that accentuate the digital divides. So hopefully, with more people being able to use or run AI tools in the lower cost, at least this digital divides won't be like being enlarged that much. Furthermore, another benefit of making AI more widely accessible is that it can help potentially to provide some benefits or resources to marginalized or underserved populations. For example, if AI system, some of the AI system for diagnosis can be incorporated into the medical diagnosis process in some part of the world, it can help the doctors to provide more efficient or comprehensive analysis for the population in there, and help to increase some of the health to help to mitigate some of the health disparities. But on the other hand, we should also be aware of the limits of democratizing AI use. First of all, although we just talked about some of the great potential benefits of AI tool, it should be noted that AI itself is also a kind of a dual-use technology, meaning that some kinds of lots of time this technology, while it might be designed for good usage, it can lead to some of the negative consequences. And it can happen when sometimes that they're just some of people bear malicious intention and then use these tools for some bad results. For example, when people use like ChatGPT to cheat on exams, or when people use deepfake, which is supposed to be a helpful tool for people to edit the video, but people may use that and post women's image on top of porn and then function to objectifying women. And lots of those will tend to exacerbate or put unjust impacts on marginalized groups. And in some other cases, the AI system might have negative consequence, even though people do not use that in the malicious, do not have malicious intention at the beginning. For example, because of the kind of biases that encoded in the data sets for trained AI models, lots of the products that are being derived will also manifest that kind of biases. So we have already seen the cases such as Google search engine function to reinforce racism by presenting some of the stereotypes that are degrading people of color. And recently, the generative AI systems is another example that it will encode and then manifest or even enlarge the kind of stereotypes, either through image or some of the generation text. And so with more people be able to use those tools, they will tend to being exposed to this kind of stereotype images and make this kind of negative consequences more difficult to mitigate it or combat it. So those are some of the concerns that should be raised when we are thinking about making AI tools like more widely accessible. Who will be using that? What kind of consequence? But how will they use them? And what kind of consequences it might lead to? The second notion is democratizing AI development. So here, the idea is that, well, let's try to include more people or hopefully like more diverse groups of people into the process of AI development. Here's a quote from Christine Wolf, who is a staff researcher in IBM. So this quote says, democratizing AI calls for wider participation in the everyday work practices of AI, motivated by the concern that the ability to engineer and put to use AI technologies should not rest in the hands of a privileged few. So here, AI is understood as a domain of technological innovation. And the idea is that the kind of power or capacity to engineer or to make decisions in regarding to how to design AI system and make the relevant decision regarding what kind of AI system should be designed should be more widely distributed and not just giving small groups of engineers this kind of power. I think there are two streams, stream of different types of measures that can be described as try to democratize AI development. The first type of those focusing on the technical aspect in the AI development. So the idea is that currently, because the AI development is really resource intensive, in order to to compile the data set to train AI model, and also in order to have the kind of to compute the AI system, there needs to be lots of resources, both in terms of money and the human labors, and that is one of the main reasons why that currently the power to make a huge contribution in AI development has been clustered in the big tech companies who has this kind of money and power, both in terms of computing resources, people, and the money to own some of the data sets. So the idea here is that, okay, maybe we can try to reduce this entry level for and then enable more people to join or to develop their own AI system, even though they are not being employed by the big tech companies, or even if they do not have such amount of technical tools. So here are some, for example, some tech companies like Meta, they try to release or make some of the large language model more widely openly available or accessed to the broader groups of people, and saying that now you don't need to train the whole models from the beginning, but here is some of the pre-trained model. You can then develop your own AI system on top of that. Hugging Face is another company. They try to provide this kind of open source platforms that enabling more people to can reach or to use some of this kind of open sources infrastructures, both in terms of data sets or foundation model, and then build their own tools. There are also some of the assistive tools, like the no-code tools that people can use. So even though they do not have extensive coding skills, they can still try to use that and then build their own AI systems. Another stream of the measures focusing on the non-technical aspects of AI development. So it is important to know that in the whole process of AI development, there are also some aspects that does not require so much of that, or it's not just about the technical knowledge, but rather some decisions should be made about how to make different kind of trade-off between values, or what kind of AI system should be designed, whose interest or whose a perspective should be reflected. And then the participatory design is a kind of thinking that try to include stakeholders into the process of AI development. So that will try to give the input from both the users and many other different kind of community members who might be using those AI tools or who might be impacted by the usage of AI tools, and gather their maybe to do some of the consulting with them, or try to co-design with them. So in a way that try to develop the AI system that better reflect their perspectives. So the prospects of democratizing AI development, first of all, it can help to reduce the power concentration of AI development. So currently, it's really mostly people or the engineers in the big tech companies, they're able to make those decisions. And right now, either through the lowering the entry level or have the participation of multi-stakeholders, it can help, it can better release the power to widely spread. And in good cases, it can also help to better accommodate the needs and interests and perspectives of diverse populations. On the other hand, I want to raise some cautions about the current measures. First of all, about the kind of tools that try to reduce the entry level. I think some of those and actually might risk facing the kind of challenges of limited effects of add and stir approaches. So this idea of add and stir approaches is drawn from feminist scholars. So they have noticed that in many of the domains, when people trying to increase the gender diversity in some of the places like workplace environment, Lots of time people say that, okay, then what we should do is just try to recruit more women into the workplace. Then it might help, and with the thought that this will help us to reframe the whole culture, and then we will have a more like a gender inclusive environment. The feminist philosopher has been noticed that actually this kind of just add and stir approaches has limited effect if there's no if this not accompanied with some like more fundamental reflections on what kind of norms this workplace like inhibit, or the kind of regulations or the kind of dynamics that people interact with each other. And I think that currently the kind of measures people being used in democratizing AI development have similar kinds of effects. The reason is because what a big tech company try to do is that they provide some of the infrastructure for people to develop their AI models on top of that. That means they have the data set widely accessible. They made like the data set or some of the pre-trained AI model widely accessible. However, they do not think about or do not reflect too much on some of them will be potentially encoded biases into the data set or the model. So even though that like making those kind of infrastructure widely available, it will enable more people to build their own AI system. But with some of the biases encoded in a more grounded infrastructure, the kind of tools being developed won't be able to make huge differences on top of that. And furthermore, there's a concern that with there much more of the AI system being built on top of the same set of infrastructure, it will contribute to the phenomena called algorithmic monoculture and risk leading to the outcome homogenization. This can be understood, for example, that suppose there's some of the, if many companies, they try to build their own recruiting systems on top of like a similar set of infrastructure. So although this AI system, they might have different appearance or different guise, they might downgrade the same set of populations in a systemic way, and then turns out leading to some of the systemic exclusion of some groups of populations. And this kind of phenomena will tend to happen, especially to people who are already like marginalized in the current AI systems. On the other hand, the set of approaches based on participatory design, they bear some promises, but the questions, but some concerns has been raised regarding the worry of participation washing. And the idea is because that this term participation is still quite vague and has been generally used to describe many different ways of include people into the process. So participation sometimes just being used when people say that we include people into the process, but actually those people, those like stakeholder being included, they might not be given a real power in making the decisions, or maybe that they contribute their labor, but they do not get the appropriate amount of compensation. So it turns out they will be kind of exploited, but they'll be exploited and then, but not really contribute to the process of making the decisions regarding what kind of system should be built. And some reports have showed that currently, although many big tech companies have tried to use this kind of participatory design in their product design, but because the more substantial way of participation require lots of resources and it's more complicated to enact. So lots of the participation design currently being used in that sectors has rather have a limited effect. So we should be more cautious when a company is saying that we are trying to include more people, but really like what kind of effects that has been leading to. The third notion is democratizing AI governance. So the idea is that, well, AI should be a site that is under regulation, and furthermore under regulation through some kind of democratic process that allow a collective decision-making of among many members of the society. Here's a quote from philosopher Annette Zimmerman and her colleague. And the quote, "Developing and deploying weak AI involves making consequential choices that demand greater democratic oversight, not just from AI developers and designers, but from all members of society. So the idea of AI governance try to point it out that there's actually lots of decision-making points through the whole process of AI development and deployment. So because that AI has been exerting a huge amount of impacts on members of society, those people who has been impacted or will be impacted should also be given a say regarding how AI should be designed, what kind of AI tool should be designed, or even what kind of pace that AI development should be built on. So AI governance can actually cover a wide range of questions that should be asked and a wide range of decision-making process that should be proposed in regarding to AI. So because democratizing AI governance is also a very a general terms, and so I think unlike these two notions just mentioned earlier, there's I think people are still trying to discovering what is a better way to govern AI in a democratic way. But still, we can see some of the initiatives has been taken both through the state actors and the non-state actors. So in the state actors part, there has been, the EU has been enacting the EU AI Act, which they try to release the final version of that at the end of this year and try to put it into place in just a few years. Here in the United States, the White House released last year, I think, it released the blueprint for an AI Bills of Rights. And there's also GPAI, which is a global coalition among many different state government and trying to think about how to better regulate AI. At the same time, there are also some of the initiatives been trying to have this kind of democratic input through both the NGO, Partnership on AI, or some of the tech companies like OpenAI or Meta. They're also trying to create some of the some kind of forum that to seek democratic inputs. The prospects of this kind of measures or democratizing AI governance is that first, again, another way to try to reduce the power concentration on AI-related decision-making, because currently it is still mostly the tech companies who are building those AI tools. They are the one to really make those decisions, and the government, and then furthermore, another potential prospects of that is given the epistemic virtue of democracy when it convenes large diverse groups of people who have different kind of epistemic capacity and resources. It might facilitate a more comprehensive examinations on the AI systems and try to produce a more comprehensive regulations on the potential risks that AI system might impose on the marginalized groups. So the idea is that with this more eyes and more diverse scrutinies on the AI systems and how to regulate those in the beginning or much in advance, hopefully we will be able to prevent some of the harmful AI system being produced or being used in the downstream. But there's also limits of this. First, notably, as Professor Johan Himmerich has been pointed out, conceptually, democracy itself doesn't ensure to reduce justice or to reduce structural injustice. The idea is because democracy basically just refers to the a kind of a procedure of procedures or mechanisms of collective decision makings, which hopefully amount a kind of people on equal footing. But here the idea of equality can be understood in many different ways. So some of those are really just about formal equality, like voting, everyone gets one vote. So under some conceptions of democracy, democracy can become a kind of tyranny of majority when the voting, the majority vote certain kinds of view, and then they pass this kind of democratic process, but the results will end up to marginalize some of the perspectives of the minority or even sacrifice the rights of the minority. And on some of the practical level, like in our current society with the electoral democracy, there's also concerns about the kind of elite captures or the regulatory captures in our current democratic system. And lots the worry should be raised about who's about regulatory captures, for example, when the government really co-opt and then to emphasize or prioritize the benefits or perspectives of the corporation over the interests of the public. So the question, so the concern raised here does not mean to suggest that we should not democratize AI governance, but rather to suggest that we need to pay much more attention about what kind of democratic process is being used and whether the whose perspectives are really being represented in the democratic decisions. Okay, so far I just went through the analysis, a survey of 3 different notions of democratizing AI, and people might think that, okay, so now the message is a little bit like pessimistic because I'm saying that democratizing AI, although it seems like a promising on certain reflection, it doesn't ensure or it doesn't necessitate to mitigate algorithmic injustice. Right, as I have pointed out, some of the approaches to democratize AI might have really limited effects, and some of those might actually function to produce the new forms of injustice. But I think on the other hand, we can also have a more constructive takeaway, which is that maybe the considerations and pay more attention to the issue of algorithmic injustice or the kind of a power dynamics could help us to better guide the approaches to democratizing AI. So as we've been seeing that the idea of democratizing AI is very general, and then indeed lots of the details about both the notions and the mechanism should be taken is still being laid out, and people are still doing experiments and try to think about what is the better way to democratize AI. So I think in the process, would be really helpful for us to think about how my AI as a tool, either as a tool, as an area of technological innovation, or as a site under governance. How can some of the related discussions help us to better cultivate a more just socio-technical structure through the use, development, and regulation of AI? So here, I'm not going go to read all the questions, but instead I want to give you examples, one example of each category about how paying more attention to the consideration of algorithmic injustice can help us develop a more fragrant or help us to better advance approaches to democratize AI. So first of all, when we're talking about democratizing AI use, in addition to this currently a more dominant approach, which they suggest that we just make AI tools free and then post it online so people will just use them, we should also be thinking about the kind of more substantial access, namely who will really have the capacity to make use of those AI tools, and whether they will have the sufficient capacity to use the AI tools in a more a constructive or a beneficial way. So that will help us to shift some attention to education or the kind of helpful, the kind of empowerment through enhancing people's AI literacy. So one example I want to share here is a project called CRAFT, and it is a project that is designed at Stanford by groups of Stanford's faculty and postdoc, along with several of the high school teachers. So the motivation behind this project is that they realize that many of the high school teachers, they really want to incorporate related AI literacy resources or materials into their curriculum, but places like schools, which is more underserved, usually they do not have enough resources, or the teachers do not have the sufficient bandwidth to do so. So here the CRAFT try to provide this kind of free classroom-ready resources, which is co-designed with some other high school teachers about AI, and then that can be used and just be directly adopted by the other high school teachers in more underserved regions. And here, what they try to teach the students is not only about how to use AI, but also increase their understanding and awareness about the potential benefits and risks that the AI tool has been associated with. In regarding to democratizing AI development, I want to share with you to this example called Common Voice, which is initiated by Mozilla. And the motivation behind this project is because that Mozilla realized that currently the voice data sets is mostly owned by companies like tech companies. And furthermore, the voice data sets that are being used to develop many of the AI tools that we are using every day, it's actually underrepresented, both in terms of the kind of languages that it includes and also the kind of accent or usage it represents. So here, Common Voice is actually a kind of a crowdsourcing project. So it invites people from different parts of the world to contribute, either by recording, so you can speak your language, or you can type in some of the sentences in your own language. And then it invites people to also like directly contribute or to verify those kind of input. So together, they initiated this project back in 2017. So over the past 5-6 years, they have been growing this project, and right now they have this kind of voice data set, includes more than 100 of languages, and it's totally public available voice data sets that people can use that to develop their own tools. So here, I think in contrast with some of the measures that we mentioned earlier, is that it takes another layer to reflect on the potential biases that is also encoded into the data sets, and help and try to include people's efforts to scrutinize that and then contribute to make a more widely diversely representative data set. Lastly, about democratizing AI governance. So earlier, I pointed out that there are some of the limitations of our current democratic system, either through like a majoritarian rule or voting. And in fact, in the political scientist has always been thinking about what are some of the more innovative way of design that can better facilitate a democratic participation or deliberation and enable people to better contribute and discuss with each other on an equal footing. This idea of deliberative mini-publics is one, I think, promising innovative design that has been used recently all over the world, and people has been used this and try to make some decisions for different kind of public issues. The idea of deliberative mini-publics is that I try to convene or form a mini versions of publics. That means that a small versions of groups of people, but representative enough of the wider population. So people are usually selected through random selection or by just lottery. So, so this can form a small groups of people who hope, with a more better representative of the wider population, and then put the small populations together through some kind of kind of facilitate their deliberation. So they will hear some of the information input from experts, and they will deliberate with each other with the help with moderators. Deliberative mini-publics has been some empirical studies have shown that this kind of designs have helped people to better deliberate with each other in a way that doesn't polarize people with different opinions, but also help them to facilitate a kind of relation building, and also to come up with a more comprehensive proposal that can then be used for the wider population as a guidance to think about these different public issues. And recently, deliberative mini-publics has also been adopted by a different sector to think about how to make regulations on AI. So for example, in 2019, the government in UK, in Manchester, they have established a citizens' juries on artificial intelligence, and it asks people to deliberate on how to make trade-off between different values regarding AI, such as value between the accuracy and explainability of AI system. There's in 2020, the Ada Lovelace Institute, which is an NGO, It also convened the Citizens Council on biometrics, asking people to deliberate on like digital fingerprints and how should we regulate the kind of tools with different forms of biometrics. And more recently, at the end of last year, Meta started to collaborate with like Stanford and some other researchers, try to convene a kind of community forum where they convene, I think, thousands of people from all over the world. And in order to come up with some of the regulations, like generative AI, or how should we regulate metaverse when there are cases of bullying or harassment. So these are, I think, the mini publics will have its own limitations. And for example, whether the tech companies or government will really take the output like seriously, and how will they use this to, how will they use the outcome to inform their decision making or in making a regulation on AI. I think those are still aspects that should be pay more attention and to continue scrutiny. However, I think these are some of the more promising perspectives that people are trying, and hopefully with the concerns on algorithmic injustice bear in mind, it can also help us to continue refine the more of the approaches to democratize AI. All right, so to wrap up, and then just to re-emphasize that the key messages here is that, so I think I've talking about some of the prospects to democratize AI, but I hope, hopefully I also convince you that democratizing AI itself still have a lot of the details that need to be fleshed out. And when we are trying to better refine the notions or come up with a better mechanisms to democratize AI, the concerns about algorithmic injustice or the kind of unjustified power hierarchies among people should be put more forefront. And hopefully with this bear in mind, we can thinking about the future of AI altogether in a more positive way. So I will end my talk here, and I'm looking forward to the discussions. Thank you very much.
Trying to develop these very complex tools. So what would be your counter to that claim?
Oh, so sorry, so just make sure that I get a question. So the audience is suggesting that they do not find the idea of democratizing AI development like convincing, and the worry is because there's like include some of the non-experts into the process of AI development, which seems to be an aspect that require lots of expertise. Is that a question?
Yeah, so it would be that democracies has a role to play in governance and, and the use of AI and any problems that crop up from that. But how do you just take some random people and
right
to the production of the iPhone or something like that?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Especially, I think that your question is actually like a manifest another way of like why this term of democratize AI is actually kind of vague, right? Because we can think about because there's still a lot depends on how does this democratize like really getting instantiated. So you can see your question is like thinking about some of the really more shallow way to democratize AI development, right? You just like randomly pick someone and say that, okay, now you develop this AI system, and maybe this person doesn't have the like sufficient education or knowledge about either how to design AI, or they do not have some of the training about making some like cautious in some of the AI design. So that would be definitely a bad way to do so. But on the other hand, I think a more we can still make sense of why we want to have more people being like included in the AI design process. And it depends on like, so as I pointed out in my talk, we can differentiate between like different aspects of AI development, right? There are some of the technical aspects, and we can debate about like how much expertise that people need to have in order to like design AI, and whether, for example, some people maybe they might be able to write code, but not be able to code that sufficiently? Should they be, can they use some other tools to assist them, and so they can better build their own AI tools? And on the other hand, there are aspects about AI development, just like all kinds of technology design, that is not just about technical knowledge, but rather there's lots of the decision that need to be made. So like one of the example I talked about in the talk is that, for example, the designers, they might encounter the kind of trade-off between different kind of value. Like the AI system, there could be value about like the accuracy and explainability, and whether the designer should try to prioritize which value and why, and how this might have the impacts on different populations. These are questions that require expertise, but expertise that goes beyond just the technical knowledge. And so we might think about that. So we might think one way to democratize AI development means that we need more diverse forms of experts to be included. So for example, we might need the input from maybe ethicists, we might need input from like sociologists in order to together like work with tech experts to make those decisions. But furthermore, we might also think about that we might want to like get the kind of input from more diverse groups of people who may be using those technology, or who might be impacted by how the tools will be making some decision about like how the medical resources will be distributed. We should also get their opinion, and that might help to inform the decision making. So I hope that this help us to think about maybe a broader way of how people can also, the democratic input can have some role even in a development process.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so we have propped up to the end of our time. We have other classes to go to, and there's another class waiting to inhabit this space. So again, I want to thank you for a really excellent talk. I'll have some comments for you later on email. And,
thank you.
Really excited that you could be here today with us, at least virtually. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. And if you have any question, feel free to email me. Thank you.
All right, will do. Okay, thanks.